Okay, so let's dive into this recent court decision. It's out of North Carolina, and it's pretty significant for election law.
Yeah, it really is. We're talking about an attempt by Republicans to, well, change how ballots were counted after an election had already happened.
For the state Supreme Court race, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specifically focused on Justice Allison Riggs. She's a Democrat, and she won, but it was incredibly close.
How close are we talking?
Just over 700 votes. That's after recounts and everything. Very, very tight margin.
Wow. Okay, so what was the specific move they tried to make?
Well, the core idea, the strategy, was to get over 65,000 votes thrown out
65,000. From where?
from 4 specific counties. And, these weren't randomly chosen counties.
Let me guess. Heavily Democratic.
Overwhelmingly Democratic, yeah. So the math was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And invalidate those votes, and Riggs's lead disappears. Maybe even flips the result.
So a direct challenge to the outcome based on changing the counting rules post-election.
That's the crux of it.
And this wasn't just like a simple lawsuit, was it? I gather it bounced around a bit.
Oh, yeah. It went through state courts, it involved the State Board of Elections, and then ended up in federal court. A
Yeah.
real legal journey.
What happened in the state courts? Were they leaning one way or the other?
Well, initially there were some signals, given the sort of partisan makeup of the state Supreme Court at that time, that maybe the arguments might find some traction there. It definitely showed that tension between state and federal roles in running elections.
Interesting, but the final word came from the federal system.
It did. It landed in front of a federal district court judge.
And wasn't this judge appointed by President Trump?
That's right. Chief Judge Martin Reedinger, a Trump appointee. And he ruled pretty decisively against the Republican effort.
Okay, so what was his reasoning?
It boiled down to a fundamental constitutional principle, really. He stated quite clearly that the federal Constitution, it just forbids changing the rules of an election after people have already voted.
So you can't move the goalposts after the game is played?
Exactly. That's the essence of it. You just can't. It sets a dangerous precedent otherwise.
And this isn't like a brand new idea in law, is it?
Not at all. This ruling strongly reinforces what's already, pretty established legal thinking. Yeah. It's meant to stop exactly this kind of thing, trying to manipulate results after the fact. It lines up with a whole lot of other court decisions that have shut down similar attempts elsewhere.
So that sounds like a win for, well, sticking to the rules and respecting the vote count.
It certainly is, in this specific instance, a significant block against this particular challenge.
But does it, like, solve the bigger picture issues around election challenges and voting rights?
Not entirely. I mean, look, while this attempt failed, the whole landscape around voting rights and election administration is still really contested, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like these battles keep popping up.
They do. And those pushing for, let's say, stable and fair election processes, they basically have to keep winning these legal fights. The other side, well, they often only need one victory, one sympathetic ruling, to potentially cause pretty big disruptions to how democracy functions.
That really puts it in perspective. It's an ongoing effort, not just one case.
Absolutely. And you have to look beyond just the courts. Think about the administrative side.
Like the state election board.
Exactly. Who's on them? Who appoints them? Partisan influence there is a huge factor. North Carolina is actually a perfect example of this right now.
Oh, what's happening there with their board?
Well, there's been a shift. Recently, the power to appoint the majority of the members on the State Board of Elections moved. It used to be the governor, who's a Democrat. Now it's the state auditor, who's a Republican.
Okay, and why does that matter so much? What does the board actually do?
They do a lot. Think of them as setting the ground rules. They provide guidance on everything from, like, ballot design to voting machine procedures, polling place rules, all the nuts and bolts of running an election statewide.
Right. So if the majority is appointed by one party,
Then there are naturally concerns about how future guidance might be shaped, what rules might be emphasized or changed. It could tilt things.
so even with this federal court stopping this specific post-election change, the way future elections are run could still be influenced by this board shift?
Precisely. The federal ruling addresses the constitutional violation of changing rules after voting. But the board's makeup influences the rules before voting even starts. It highlights why you need to watch both the legal challenges and these administrative structures.
And presumably what happens in North Carolina doesn't just stay in North Carolina, right? These things can set precedents.
Oh, absolutely. If this attempt had succeeded, you can bet it would have been looked at as a potential playbook.
A blueprint for other states?
Yeah, especially in states where one party holds significant power. It could really destabilize confidence in election outcomes across the country. So this ruling helps kind of shore up the defenses against that, for now at least.
So it sounds like the main takeaway here is vigilance. You need it in the courts, but also watching how the actual election machinery is being run.
That's it, exactly. Every legal win that upholds fair processes is important. But you also can't take your eye off the ball when it comes to the state-level administration and rulemaking. Both are critical.
That's all for today's Dissent Picks. If you believe in standing up for what's right, please check out our collections at dissentpicks.com, featuring thought-provoking t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and more that amplify your voice. Remember, when power corrupts, resistance becomes duty. Stay informed, stand strong, and we'll see you next time.